Hey, it's Mike Hambright from FlipNerd.com. Welcome back for a Flip Show. Today I have with me a special guest, Shaun McCloskey, who's a real estate investor. He's a speaker and coach. He's an author of Lifeonaire, a book that I myself bought and couldn't put down a couple weeks ago. Read it in one sitting. And we're going to get to know Shaun a little bit better here and learn how to use real estate investing as a tool to live a more fulfilling life. Before we get started, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Shaun, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, glad you're on. So this is the first time we've met. A few different other guests had recommended you, and I know that you're on kind of a wild tour of sharing your message of Lifeonaire. And in fact, I've got it right here, but it's really been. I don't know if everybody can see
look
this
at that,
here.
the electronic version. Right?
Oh yeah, man, that's
cool.
That's how I roll. Until there's a problem. But I'm glad you're on the show, and your book. And I know there's a lot more about you than just the book, but I hope we get a chance to talk about the message and the general message in there, which is how to make sure that you live a fulfilling and rich life, and it's not all necessarily about the money if you're not enjoying it. So,
yeah.
But anyway, before we get started about that, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your background, and then we'll kind of dive into some of these other topics.
Well, absolutely, man. Well, first off, let me paint the picture that money is important,
Oh, yeah.
And anybody who tries to tell you it isn't, go without it for a little while, and you'll start to realize how important it really is, But,
right.
This all started, I started investing back in 2003 and, started out by screwing up a whole lot and doing my first deal. I can't even believe I got through it and stayed in the business because I lost $86,000 on my first deal.
Wow.
And, not a pretty sight, but, my second deal went a little bit better. Made about maybe 15 on that one. But, it was 86 grand that I didn't have to lose. But it was either stay in or go get another job. And, my last job I worked at for 7 years and worked a lot of hours and worked my butt off for a company that went out of business and ended up letting me go ultimately. So yeah. I decided I was not going to go back and work for somebody else. And so I stayed with it. And, here we are 10 years later, 300 and some change deals later. And, for some people that sounds like a whole lot. For some, that's nothing. Right. But it was quite a ride. And so here we are 10 years later. So, about maybe 5 years ago, I was asked to speak on the subject of flipping houses, and my expertise was in the realm of pre-foreclosures and short sales. So I started teaching on that, and then I got asked to speak around the country, and I started noticing this pattern that I would go out and I would speak and I would teach other people how to run a successful real estate business. And all I was teaching them how to do was exactly what I was doing, which is working way too many hours.
Right.
And I would go on vacation. And while I was on vacation, I was thinking about what was going on back home. And,
right.
Is this deal going to close while I'm away? And are my employees going to take care of this stuff? And is my overhead going to be handled? And, all of the things that you don't think about when you go into business. But when you go into business, you kind of realize instantly that you're wearing many different hats.
That's right. Yeah.
You're the janitor, you're the accountant, you're the bookkeeper, you're the marketing guy, you're the negotiator, you're all of these different things.
Right.
And so I did what a lot of people do. They go out and they try to hire all this stuff out. And all I did was split up the piece of the pie smaller and smaller and smaller to where now I got to go do more and more deals to make the same amount of money. So I was flipping 60, 70 deals a year. And so people looked at that as successful, but I was looking at it as like, I can't catch a break.
Yeah.
And so this thing called Lifeonaire, got introduced to me by my now business partner, Steve Cook. And here we are years later, and still figuring it out as we go, but getting better at it.
Yeah, it's so. We talked a little bit before we started recording today, and what's interesting to me is there have been times when my wife and I have been very blessed in this business. I mean, we don't need to work as hard as we do anymore, but we still do. But you sit back and you question, is this success?
Yeah.
Not that I care about the definition of success, but in your mind, you just start to question sometimes. Why am I working so hard? What's the reason I'm doing this for? And sometimes when you hear, I have a 6-year-old son, and you hear him say something like, "Well, Dad, he said something recently that was, it was more like, you care." I don't know. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something that was just a total jab.
And it ripped your heart right out.
Yeah, it was like, you care. He didn't say you care more about work than me, but he said something like that.
Yeah.
And you hear that, and you're just like, oh my God, what?
Yeah.
What am I doing here? What's going on here? It's like, and you just tend to. I'm the type that just, I go home and we're eating dinner and I'm still thinking about work, and because I work with my wife, we're talking about work before we go to bed, and we wake up in the morning, and that was why I couldn't put your book down. There's some things that clicked with me more than others in there, but it was really are you working to live, or are you living to work? And trying to figure that out. And that's something I've always struggled with.
I think you just hit something, man. You said about defining success, and, other people can define success. But the fact of the matter is, part of what the book is about is you defining what that success looks like in your own life. Right. And all too often, we define what success means based on what other people have told us it means, or what our environment says that it means. And very few of us, I've seen this now by speaking all over the country and by coaching people all over the country. Very, very few people have a written vision for what they want their personal life to look like. Most people have a business plan. If you're in business for yourself, you better have a business plan or you're going to fail. But we don't look at a vision for our personal lives as the same thing. I bring this up and some people immediately their eyes roll and they go, what is this goal setting crap? I've heard this before, and it's not the same thing. Because here, we can have a goal that takes us completely away from what our life is supposed to be about. And we can hit the goal and we can feel really good about hitting the goal, but the goal can take us further away from where it is that we really want to be. And I see guys do this all the time. They have goals set up for their business where they want to hit certain financial numbers, and they sacrifice a lot of other things in the process. And they do this a lot of times because, we want this thing called freedom. Everybody wants to feel free and be free. But sometimes at the expense of the pursuit of freedom, we get rid of the freedom that we actually have so that we can someday have freedom.
Right.
And it's crazy, but we all do this. Entrepreneurs are the worst at this because we're doing it for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We're building this up so that we can be free. And we're not doing it for some company that we work for. We're doing it for us and for our families. And so, but the one thing we don't want to do is sacrifice those precious years with your boy.
Right.
Attempt to someday be free. Yeah. And your challenge is one that everybody has. It's, as an entrepreneur, it's our responsibility to make sure everything is working, and that's difficult to shut off at the end of the day.
Right.
Most people, they get home and they're physically not at work anymore, but they're still at work.
Yeah.
And that affects everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's even worse about real estate investors is they tend to get hung up on unit volume.
Yeah.
Like how many units, I did this many deals this month or this year. And at the end of the day, units mean nothing.
That's right.
Absolutely nothing. And so that's the first thing that I teach, all of the folks that I mentor and coach is it's not about what anybody else's goals are, and it's not about unit volume.
That's right.
Because it's very different from market to market and from exit strategy to exit strategy. Are you wholesaling them? Are you rehabbing them? Or, it's people get hung up in some sort of metric that really doesn't matter.
That's right.
In a lot of different ways.
That's right.
Yeah.
We've got, this is not wine, by the way. It's just so we're clear.
It's vodka, right?
We've got a student of ours that's in one of our coaching groups, and by the world standards, most people wouldn't look at the volume that he does and say he's successful, but he's one of the most successful students we've got. He does 3 or 4 deals a year. And what's really cool about this guy is he does 3 or 4 deals a year, but each deal, he's very, very, he scrutinizes the deal like crazy. He will only go after the best of the best. And he casts a big net, don't get me wrong. But he only goes after the best of the best, and he says no to way more than he ever says yes to. And as a result, those 3 or 4 deals a year each net him either close to or more than 6 figures a pop. But the key here is this. Some people look at that and they go, well, okay, 300 grand a year, that's great. I want to make more than that. I want to make $1 million or $2 million a year. That's all fine. But I want you to imagine for a second how much 300 grand is when you owe no one anything.
Right.
The guy's got no house payment, no car payments, no credit cards, no nothing. So 300 grand a year when you owe no one anything and you have no bills, that's a lot of freaking money, man.
Right.
And so, I look at a guy like that, and that is his level of success. Is very simple. He knows what he wants. He knows how he wants to spend his free time. And so he only has to do 3 or 4 deals to do that. But he didn't do what so many of us do, which is tie ourselves down to all these commitments. And, like for me, going back 4 or 5 years ago when I first started Lifeonaire, I was flipping 60 or 70 houses a year. And part of the reason I was flipping 60 or 70 houses a year is because I had to flip 60 or 70 houses a year because I had this big office. I had lots of overhead. I had employee costs going out the door. And my expenses had inflated up to $34,000 a month that I had to spend to operate my business before I got to keep $1.
Right. So,
what happens if all of a sudden, is it possible to go 2 months in this crazy real estate business without doing a deal? Yeah. Or 1 month, 1 month I don't do a deal. That means next month I got to make 34 grand for next month and 34 grand for last month.
Right.
You go 3 months without doing a deal. I'll never forget this, man. I made $100,000 on a deal one time, and I went home in the worst mood of my life. And the reason I was in such a bad mood, my wife thought I was nuts. She's like, "What are you doing? We just made 100 grand." And I freaked out on her, and I kind of yelled at her. I said, "That just bought us 3 months."
Right.
3 months and we're broke again.
Yeah.
Here, 100,000 to us a few years earlier would have been $1 million to us. But now that we were successful real estate investors, that bought me 3 months to live.
Yeah.
That's not freedom.
Right.
But, I think a lot of us do that. And as we make more money, our lifestyle increases in direct proportion to the amount of new money that we make. And so we never get a chance to really be free. I see this a lot of times with people who are dying to quit their jobs. Investors that, some investors that do 5, 10, 15, or 20 or 30 flips a year, and they still have a full-time job, and they're dying to leave their full-time job, but they can't because their job is their golden handcuffs.
Right.
And they've created a lifestyle that they need to have that income from the job to support the lifestyle that they've created, and so they're not free.
Right.
So I'm blabbing a lot. So sorry.
No. So would you say, and when I read the book, it wasn't overly focused on, real estate investors per se, because it could be a lot of different things. But would you say a lot of the folks that you work with, or I know you tend to, as a real estate investor yourself, you tend to talk to a lot of real estate groups and things like that. But would you say most of the folks that you coach and mentor, are they in real estate in one way or another?
It used to be that way, but not so much anymore. The book has kind of hit people between the eyes in a good way. And, here's a perfect example. Last week at our coaching retreat, we've got a new guy that we're coaching, and he has a dentistry practice. And what's interesting, we talked about vision earlier and how important vision is, because if you don't have your own vision, and I mean your own personal and business vision, not just business.
Right. We
always start people with personal vision first, because once your personal vision's figured out, then we'll figure out how to fit a business into it. Right. But most people do the opposite. They build a business and then they try to fit personal into the holes that are left. We do the exact opposite of that.
Right.
So this guy came in and he's got this dental practice, and he's a smart guy. Here's a guy who makes probably $400 or $500 grand a year in his dental office, making very good money. He also flipped, I don't remember if he said 13 or 16 houses last year, in addition to his 40, 50 hour a week practice. And he has 26 rentals. And it's like, he can't leave the practice yet.
Right.
Why can't he leave the practice? Now, first of all, if he loved the practice, that'd be one thing. But he hates going to work every day.
Yeah.
He hates what he does. But he can't leave. Again, he calls it the golden handcuffs, because, it's really hard to go make 500 grand right out the door doing anything else other than his dental practice. Plus, he says, I went to school for so long for this. How can I just give it all up?
Right.
And the group is sitting here going, what do you mean? How could you give up something that you hate doing every day?
Right. Who cares?
Right. Why are you holding on to this thing that you hate just because you went to school for it?
Yeah.
But what was interesting about that is when I say the vision's so important, he didn't have a vision when he made this decision. Matter of fact, he used to be like this master cello player, and that's what he wanted to do with his life until one day he went to a party with all of his friends and family, and his family said, "You're never going to make any money doing that. You got to go do something else."
Right.
And he said, "What am I going to do?" And they said, "Well, you should just go be a doctor. That's where all the money is." And he realized last week in the meeting, that's why he became a dentist, because his family told him to. His family had a vision for his life. He didn't.
Yeah.
And so as a result, that's what he pursued and that's what he got. But we do that, we wake up and we go, how did we get here? And we got here because of decisions that we made because of either a vision or a lack of vision. So
right. So I've had a few different guests on lately that have talked a lot about how it's hard to become, this had nothing to do with your book, similar message. It's hard to become successful and free in life if you're working for somebody else, period. And that is unless you're building up other assets or things on the side, which is some of the same flavor of what you talked about in Lifeonaire. But, it seems like it's getting harder and harder in America for folks to ever be free unless they're building up some sort of assets. Like you said, I mean, I have a different story than you, but not that different. I worked for a big company and got let go in some political and layoffs type stuff. Then I went to work for a startup and we were flying high, and then the company filed bankruptcy, and it's like, man, I can't rely on anybody other than myself. And I think it's harder than ever right now for people to work for a big company for a long period of time and be safe ever. There's no such thing as a blue chip company anymore. There's no such thing as a safe job anymore. And so, what do you advise people but at the same time, you don't want to tell people, hey, leave your job and go stake your claim on your own, because that's not for everybody either.
Sure.
So there's a balance there somewhere. But I think there is some truth in the fact that, you feel safe at a job, but unless you're doing something to build up some wealth on the side, you may be caught off guard when you least expect it.
Safety and security, I think, is a matter of perspective. And it's interesting because if I talk to my mother-in-law, who has been with the same company for 20-something years, she looks at what I do and she thinks that I'm nuts, because she looks at it as especially when I first got started, she's like, wait a second, you don't know where your paycheck's going to come from 3 months from now? Are you out of your mind? She says, I know where my paycheck is coming from every 2 weeks. Well, I look at that differently because I've had similar experiences than you, where I've gone to work for a company and I woke up one day and I didn't have a job anymore. And so, to me, there's no security in working for somebody else. But security and certainty and safety and all those things, it's really just a facade anyway. And the reason I say it's a facade is because I know lots of people who put their security and their safety even in their finances and their bank account, and 07, 08, and 09 hit and they were wiped out. And all of a sudden, in a matter of months or even overnight, they have no sense of security or safety anymore, and even freedom, but they base their freedom on whether or not they had money. Mm-hmm. And what I've learned since then is that freedom is not just based on how much money you have in your bank account. It's how you design your life from the start. And, here, we live in the most free country on earth, and yet people in this country feel less free than most anywhere else on earth. Why is that? We have more freedom, more ability to start our own business, more ability to do the things that we want to do, and yet nobody feels free. So I have a little different philosophy, and I've chosen to base my sense of security and certainty on God rather than my money or my own abilities or anything else. And that's a story for another time. But it's a perspective, man. Some people are going to feel like they get that from their job. Other people are going to feel like they get that because they're in control of their destination. But even in business, when you're in business for yourself, my belief is I can go out and plant the crops and, dig the holes and make sure all the seeds are planted. But if God doesn't make it rain, they're not going to grow anyway. So I placed my faith in a little bit of something else. But again, story for another time.
Yeah, no, that's still good. Yeah. So how do you advise folks that you see that are just kind of caught in this hamster wheel of life and living paycheck to paycheck or even folks that want to get started in real estate investing but often don't know how. In terms of building in at the beginning that plan of wrapping what you do around your life instead of the other way around.
Well, we take people through this thing called the 4 stages to financial prosperity, and I can give you a quick overview of it right now if you want.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me or not to direct people to a website where they can get some.
No, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. If you want a further explanation of this, you can go to lifeonaire.com and just sign up to be on our mailing list, and you'll get a free about an hour-long training on just this. But this is profound, and I can say that because I didn't come up with it. Yeah. My business partner, Steve Cook, came up with it. It's really good, though. So what we encourage people to do, especially new investors, is to go through this 4 stages to financial prosperity. And it starts, stage number 1 is simple. It's create your vision. And we take people through a process to do that. You don't need our process. It helps a little bit. But we take people through a 3-day event, and they come and they create the vision at the event. And I know that sounds simple, but we start from scratch. And what we do is we try to help people unlearn what they've been taught elsewhere. And for a simple reason, most people, when I ask, how many people do you know personally that have that freedom that you desire? Not some dude that you read in a book, not some guru you saw at the front stage. How many people do you know personally that have that freedom that you desire? Most people can't think of one person. Very few people can think of 2, and almost nobody can think of 3 or more. Yeah. And so if that's the case, maybe we need to unlearn some of what we've been taught about what freedom even is. Maybe we need to start with our own definition of success and freedom and what our vision is. So that's stage number 1 is create the vision. Okay. And that's simplified, but that's what it is. Stage number 2 is to get your needs met. And we all have needs. We have physical and financial needs. And I'm talking financial here. So we need to get our needs met every single month. If your needs are very high, like mine were $34,000 a month, it's going to be more difficult to get beyond stage 2 faster. And unfortunately, in stage 2, you're not free yet, because in stage 2, this is really important, you're trading your time for money. And so my value of my time might be worth a lot of money. If I'm an attorney, maybe I'm able to charge $500 an hour. The difference is I have to go out and work to make money. I have to go work for that hour to get the $500. Right. Whether you're working $10 an hour or $500 an hour, it's the same thing. So we want to get beyond stage 2, and the key to getting beyond stage 2 is to simplify your needs. And we teach a lot of different ways to do that, but one of the easiest ways to simplify your needs and get beyond it is to introduce yourself into becoming debt-free. And this is where, this goes against the grain of what most people have been taught, especially people who have read the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Kiyosaki books,
right?
Stuff like that, because they're taught
lever it up.
Yeah, leverage it up, man. There's good debt, there's bad debt, and there's a difference. And so, but we teach, there's a difference, but take rental properties, for example, since we're on a real estate show here. Rental properties are considered good debt, right?
Usually, yeah.
Does it feel good when the tenant doesn't pay you and you still have to pay the mortgage this month? Mm-hmm. No. So, rental properties are good debt when the asset is performing, but the minute the asset doesn't perform, it doesn't feel so good anymore. Now it actually costs you money every month. So we teach other strategies like debt-free investing strategies where you can actually own your properties free and clear. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to save up $1 million to have a free and clear property portfolio. It means you may partner up with somebody else who has cash. But the bottom line is keep your needs simple so that you can get beyond stage 2 into stage 3. Stage 3 is where we create excess cash. And the way that we always did that is we'd flip some houses and we would create some excess cash. Mm-hmm. The problem is most people want to jump straight to stage 3 because that's the sexy stage, right?
Right.
Like brand new investors, man, they don't want to worry about this vision crap. What's that about it, man? I want to make some money. Show me how to make some money. I don't want to waste my time on this vision. And they skip steps. But the problem is, that's what I did. When you skip and you jump right into stage 3, you will start to say yes to things because they may make you money, but they may not fit the vision.
Right.
Perfect example. I used to take all the phone calls from my marketing all the time. And the reason I did that is because I thought, well, somebody's got to answer the phone. It's got to be me. So I'd be out to dinner with my wife and the phone would ring with a marketing call. And I now have 2 choices. Answer the call and spend 15 minutes talking to hopefully a motivated seller at dinner with my wife and have my wife pissed off now.
Right.
Or don't answer the phone see that the call came in and sit there and wonder if I just wasted marketing money on a call that's not going to leave a message.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've probably felt that too.
Oh, yeah. We deal with it all the time.
Either way, it's distracting me from what I really want that time, which was dinner with my wife, which is an intimate setting with my wife where I could just be there and be present with her, because that's what she wants too. But since I jumped straight into stage 3, making money was the priority rather than my vision. Right. And they can both be important. So stage 3 is making excess cash, but we got to go through the stages in the right order. Otherwise, we get screwed up. Mm-hmm. We say yes to this is a typical where, I'm sure you coach new investors, right?
Right.
So you probably see this all the time where a new investor gets started and they try to go do short sales, and they want to do rehabs, and they want to do wholesaling, and they want to do be a landlord, and they want to do all this different stuff, and they want to start off at the gate with that. And it's because they're chasing to whatever's going to make them the most money, right?
Right.
They don't have a vision, first of all. They're skipping straight to number 3.
Right.
Number 3 is a good stage, but you got to do 1 and 2 first, okay? So now we're going to make excess money. We used our flips to do that, and with that excess money, we can do a couple things. We can either pay down our debts, which will decrease our stage 2 needs, right? Or we can go spend it on whatever we want. We can go buy the car or whatever, but don't buy it with debt. Buy it with cash now, even though your accountant might tell you something different.
Right.
If your goal is your vision and freedom, your accountant would tell you, well, don't go pay cash for something, get a loan, because then you can write off the interest payments.
Right. Which
sounds great to an accountant, but why would you ever go spend $1 in interest so you can save 33 cents in taxes? That's stupid.
Yeah.
Why not just be free and not have any payments? Okay. Right. So then when you're in stage 3, you make that excess cash. What you would really ideally do with it is plug that stage 3 income into stage 4, and that is building a pipeline. So now stage 4, you start to invest that cash into things that are going to spit you out cash every month, whether you work or not. Now you become really free. And you can do that now with free and clear rental properties. You can do that by investing in businesses. You could do that by doing hard money loans. Some things are a little bit more passive than others. Rental properties, we all hear that's passive income. Is it passive, really? No, there's nothing passive about it, right?
No.
I mean, same with, hard money lending is something that we do now here in St. Louis where I live. And we give out these loans to people, and it's not passive, but I'm good enough at investing now where I can kind of do it in my sleep. It's not hard. It's very low risk the way that I'm structuring the deals, and the return is ridiculous.
Right.
So, but that is something that we do now with cash. So, but those are the 4 stages. Now the money from that is spitting off whether I work or not. It might require a little bit of maintenance, but it doesn't require me to be in a job working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So, Shaun, for folks that want to learn more about Lifeonaire, whether they're getting started and they want to structure things right, or whether they're, by most measures, successful right now and drowning in the pool of not enjoying life enough, how do they learn more? Of course, they could buy your book like I did, which I thought was fantastic, and I bought it on Amazon, and I'm sure you sell your book in all sorts of places. But how do they learn more about some of the great work you're doing?
Yeah, man. 2 things. One, I can't recommend that you get the book enough. And I don't say that because the book is a moneymaker. If you've ever written a book before, there's no money in writing a book.
Yeah.
But it's kind of our mission, to get this message spread. And let me warn you, some of what's in the book will go against the grain of what you've been taught. Yeah. And that's a good thing. We keep hearing from people. Matter of fact, go look at the reviews on Amazon. We immediately, when it came out, it became an Amazon bestseller, and it did so with no marketing or anything. It was all word of mouth. But we call it messing people up because, and in a good way, because the book is taking people outside of what they've been taught and just introducing you to some new things. But I think you'll like it if you get it. So start with the book. Go to Amazon, look up the word Lifeonaire, and it's just like the word millionaire. Lifeonaire, though. Lifeonaire. And or you can go to lifeonaire.com and you can put your email address in there. And when you do that, you'll get a free training on this 4 stages to financial prosperity that's much more detailed. And of course, we send out free information all the time and stuff. So pretty cool stuff.
We'll add links down below the video for folks that didn't write that down. But Shaun, awesome. Again, thanks for writing the book. It definitely woke me up in a few areas, and I know it's helping a lot of people, and definitely appreciate your perspective because it's one that isn't often heard. A lot of folks are, measuring themselves and other people based on a different measuring stick than ultimately what really matters a lot of times. So
yeah.
Awesome.
Well, the cool thing is, man, you decide what matters. Most people just don't take the time to do that.
That's true. Awesome. Hey, well, thanks for being on, and I look forward to seeing you around soon.
Thanks, man.
All right, take care. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry. So get on over to FlipNerd.com.